As soon as you hook that fish, it doesn't matter how long you've been out in the cold, your body warms up instantly, your adrenaline starts pumping, and all of a sudden you have this beautiful silver fish just jumping out of the water, just screaming downriver or upriver. You get the beard as the background.
Yep.
My name is Nate Adam. I'm from Pulaski, New York, born and raised. I grew up on this river. I love this river. Guide cold water species, specifically during September through November. I can't get enough of it. I got started fishing from my father, Paul Adam. He was a conservation officer here on the river. He was a very large influence in getting me into the outdoors. Kind of instilled that passion in me, and then from there it just kind of grew into borderline obsession, really. Today we're going to be fishing for steelhead. That's the primary run right now. That usually starts third week in October. We'll start seeing them transition into the river fully now into January, and then they'll calm down a bit. Right now it's your big transition period for these steelhead. So when they first start coming in, they're feeding on all the eggs from the kings. But as we go further and further, especially with the high water we're going to see today, a lot of those kings aren't there anymore. They're not spawning. So we're going to be using a couple different tactics to try to entice one out of a rock. Steelhead, it is a trout. The way I've always described it to people is fish for these fish like they're trout, but don't fish for them like they're trout. What I mean by that is these fish are very characteristic of holding patterns of trout. You know, cuts, little runs, they're sitting off onto the sides in softer pockets, especially with this higher water. Right behind rocks, they're gonna be tucked up tight. But you cannot fish them like a regular brook trout or brown trout you're going to pull out of a small feeder creek or a mountain stream. These fish have a lot of gusto, I guess would be the best word. It really varies. Traditionally, this time of year, you're going to be looking tail outs, cuts, anywhere where you're seeing a lot of softer water where those fish can stack up and just let the food come to them. So you can run a longer leader, run that longer tippet. I prefer at least a max of maybe 38 inches. I don't always like running a full 4 foot because it's a little more difficult to keep your straighter line. But for fly color, you know, you have your traditionals like your pinks, your oranges, you know, your Oregon cheese, which is killer on this river. Your chartreuse, which this year was the first year I actually tied a lot of chartreuse flies because those fish in the conditions we were having, chartreuse is what those fish wanted, and they were just taking chartreuse like crazy. Right now we're in that transition period, so we're looking at flesh flies, egg patterns, nymphs, small streamer patterns. These fish are really trying to figure out, okay, what else can I eat in this river besides the eggs that we've been gorging ourselves on for 2 weeks. The primary rod I use, especially for guiding my own personal use for this river, is the DXF 11 foot 6 inch 7 weight switch rod. With these 7 weights, I've had no issues with kings. You know, I've never blown a rod with a king. It's usually people pulling out of snags. And for steelhead, the tip sensitivity is fantastic, especially when you get that soft bite on an off day in the middle of winter. The other rods I run, LRSs. I use a lot of the 9 to 10 weight LRSs for largemouth and bass. I took it up to Alaska last year and it tackled silvers and kings no problem on the Nushagak. And then I actually just got into the upstreams because now I'm starting to fish smaller creeks. I run the 8.6 3 weight on the Argus 3 inch and it handles fish no problem. 18 inch brown trout, not an issue. So I heard about and got involved with Douglas rods actually while I was a river walker here and my first year guiding. you know, I wanted to support a local company and a local family that has not only helped this community, but has helped this fishery in general. So when I heard about it, you know, I wanted to get right on board. My biggest reward is the education of someone who has never caught a fish before, especially a large cold water fish such as king salmon, even a coho, and the aerial acrobatics of a steelhead. You know, it's the look on their face of not only hooking into the fish, but getting it into the net and then holding it. You know, it's a priceless look that you get all the time, especially when you're guiding every day, but it never gets old. You know, so you're always taking someone out new, either it's someone that was a military vet or someone that hasn't even come out of grade school yet, you know, teaching them how to not only properly fish for these fish, but then land them and successfully hold them and release them. That's what it's about for me. More or less, I haven't shaved since I was a kid. You know, when I got the peach fuzz in, when it first started coming out, I was like, oh yeah, you know. I did trim it a little bit before I came up here, but as you can tell, you get the post-season scruff to it, and it just means that you had a good season, you didn't have enough time to shave.